Great to see you here again. My name is Luc de Kuster, founder of the Kuster Academy, and we're still talking about principles of stakeholders. In this chapter, we will talk about communication management later. But here in this specific video, I want to talk about the principles of stakeholder identification. But before we continue, don't forget to click on the subscribe button, click on the bell button, and every time we have a new video, YouTube will inform you about it. So let's have a look at it. First of all, we have to say, what is stakeholder identification? What is it about? Now, we try to find people, groups, organizations that all could have an impact or be impacted by one or more elements of the project. So when we have these different goals of the project, we have to see who will be impacted by them, who would be interested in the project, and elements like that. And it's very important to identify those people or organizations. The main sources that we can find are related to the project charter. So we have to find out the elements of the charter. Now, in the charter, we already have stakeholders identified. We can have a look at procurement documents when we're dealing with people who are going to supply us. We have to look at the enterprise environmental factors, so the factors related to the internal organization or the external environment. We have to compare the two. We may have stakeholders who are internal, but also stakeholders who are external. And we also have to consider what we call the organizational process assets. This is all the knowledge of the organization, all the elements that we did before, how we identified stakeholders in previous projects, how we can use those to help stakeholder identification in our project. Now, we use stakeholder analysis. We're going to evaluate the stakeholders. We're going to evaluate the way they think, who they are, what their preferences are, and we have to use here people who have the expert judgment, expert knowledge in doing that. And of course, we also will have meetings. We will meet two people. We will identify who those people are who play an important role in our project. And once we finish this, we create what we call the stakeholder register. The stakeholder register is the overview of all the stakeholders with the information that is valuable for us and for the project. We don't want to have personal information there, perhaps only knowing if the person is married or they have some children, when their birthday is, but basically things that will help us to understand how the things work and what we can do about. When we look at the stakeholders and the EEFs, or the enterprise environmental factors, we have to consider both internal and external factors. Now, internal factors will define the internal stakeholders. Who has in your organization an interest in the project? Your CEO, CFO, the person or the group for whom we do the project, the sales department, marketing, and so on. External factors, external stakeholders may have an interest in your project. Certainly when we look at environmental organizations, when you're doing something that could endanger the environment, or what is the impact of your project on the environment. Of course, we may have regulatory offices, like if you need a permit, if you have to comply with certain standards. There may be organizations that are monitoring the project, your customer, and so on. We also look at the organizational process assets. So we have all the procedures and processes that exist within the organization and all the things that can interfere with the project. So if you have a quality department which is overviewing all quality assessments within the company, that could be a very important stakeholder. Now, here we have processes to allocate resources, obtain funds, and many other standardized processes and procedures. You have to understand those. You have to get the resources for your project. You have to obtain the funds and all the other. You have to do procurement. All these things are described in the organizational process assets. We have all those processes and procedures, and it will also provide you a list with stakeholders that you have to add to the register. Once you are finishing the stakeholder identification, you obtain a set of important outputs. The main output is the stakeholder register. The stakeholder register is in fact a register where you have all those stakeholders with certain information about them. Most important, what type of information they want to have, what is their level in the company, what overview information they would like to have, things like that. Not really details, but understanding how you can manage them better. So like I said, name, function, other data, the things that I spoke about. We may have stakeholders that change during the project, and we have to update this register regularly. So we have to go through the project, the different steps, different phases. We may have different stakeholders who are, in fact, who can be involved in the project, and we have to update that list whenever this happens. So when we identify that there are new stakeholders appearing, we have to again do the stakeholder identification, update the stakeholder register. We may have some additional information, like I said, power information, how powerful are they, what is their interest level in the system, their engagement levels, what is actual, what is desired. All these things are in fact important to the project. So that was it for stakeholder identification. Very important that we find all the stakeholders that are in fact related to our project. Forgetting stakeholders may be a big mistake, so I have to be careful about that. Anyway, that was it. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button, click on the bell button, and every time you have a new video, or we have a new video, you will be informed about it by YouTube. That was it. Thank you, and bye-bye.